King County's mumps outbreak has reached 9 confirmed cases. They are all in the Auburn area and kids aged 8 to 17 years old and one 23-year-old person. Fortunately, no one has had to be admitted to the hospital and all of the kids have completely recovered. We've got Dr. Elizabeth Mead joining us now from Swedish Medical Center just to help answer some important questions to keep others from contracting this virus. And a lot of us have never had to deal with mumps, so this is sort of a first-time thing. Good morning. Thank you so much for being with us.
No problem.
Yeah, I feel like this is sort of, it sounds like one of those old-timey diseases that you just don't think about anymore.
Yeah, it's a common virus that everybody used to get when they were children.
Yeah.
And then since we've introduced the vaccine, we've actually seen a 99% reduction in cases. So we hardly ever see it anymore.
So let's talk about what we need to know. What happens when someone contracts mumps? What are the symptoms?
Yeah, so it's a viral illness. So there are some common non-specific symptoms like fever and headache and just kind of not feeling well. It tends to cause a lot of specific gland swelling. So one of the most common things we see is the parotid gland, which is kind of a saliva gland right here, can get very swollen and uncomfortable. Some glands in the neck can get swollen, and then in boys, their testicles can actually get quite swollen and uncomfortable from it. Yeah.
So how serious is this virus? Is it like contracting the flu where it eventually goes away, or can it be deadly?
Just like the flu, you know, most people that get bumps get better and don't have any long-term effects, but there can be some very serious complications. So you can get meningitis, which is an infection around the brain. You can have your kidneys or your heart affected, or very rarely you can have fertility issues later on.
So at what point do you say, okay, I need to go to the doctor because this is a lot worse than I thought?
I think if you suspect that you or your child or anyone you know has mumps, they should absolutely be seen by a doctor for sure, just to get tested and make sure. You know, this is an epidemic that we're just starting to see in our area, and so it's really important that we keep track of all the cases and exposures. But if your child or you have mumps and you're starting to have some different mental status changes or seem really irritable or lethargic or having chest pain, those are all reasons that you might want to see the doctor again.
All right, so how do we prevent this from happening to us or our families?
The best way to do it is to make sure that you're vaccinated. So the MMR vaccine, which is measles, mumps, and rubella, kids get the first dose around a year old, and then there's a booster dose around 4 to 6, and that's by far the best way to prevent it.
Well, we were talking about that. Yeah, I had my MMR vaccine when I was a kid, but now I'm an adult. I haven't had vaccines in years.
Yeah.
Do we need to get them as adults?
So right now we're just recommending the standard 2 doses. There's not good evidence that a 3rd dose really necessarily protects any better, but we are looking into it, and particularly in special cases. So if there's a very intense contact environment, like an epidemic in a school or a hospital, or if we're seeing a very high attack rate of mumps, then there are certain cases where we would recommend a 3rd dose for certain people.
We were noticing some information going around Facebook specifically saying that the MMR vaccine may not be as effective as first thought. What is the information that we need to know about that?
So the efficacy of the mumps component of the MMR vaccine is about 88%. So it's really quite good. No vaccine is ever going to be 100% because there are always going to be certain people that don't respond like we would expect and develop that immunity. And the mumps, the measles and the rubella components are actually even more effective than that. So overall, like I said, we've really seen a 99% reduction. So it's the best way to protect yourself, but nothing's ever going to be 100%.
Right, and which I think is the #1 thing to remember.
Yeah, so even if your child or you have been vaccinated and you have symptoms that are concerning for mumps, it's always, like I said, a good idea to be checked out and to get tested.
We were also hearing that health officials in Arkansas were comparing that MMR vaccine to the flu shot of 2014 that wasn't super effective. What's your take on that hypothesis as well?
I think there's a lot of information that we still need to gather. So what we don't know is how different these strains of mumps that we're seeing now, how different they are from the original that the vaccine is based on. Any virus can change and mutate. So as we're getting more information and doing more testing on these viruses, then we can start to think about whether we need to change the mumps vaccine going forward. I think it's important for people to know that it takes several years to develop a new vaccine because we're very careful about testing for safety and side effects and efficacy.
It seems like, you know, practicing hygiene, being proactive with the vaccine, that seems like the best thing we can all do right now.
Absolutely. So make sure that your kids are vaccinated, make sure that you've had both of your doses, and then if you think that you've been around someone and you've been exposed to mumps, then just try to avoid that person as much as possible, and then make sure that you get checked out by the doctor as well.
Dr. Mead, great information as always. Love having you on. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bill, over to you.